Welcome to Educate, Inform, and Challenge. My name is Teresa MacLennan. I'm the Executive Director of the Women and Children's Shelter of Barrie. Our program is about the experiences of women. We like to have open, candid, and transparent conversations about the experiences of women. We will talk about subjects like violence, women in leadership and opportunities, and gender equity. So we're very, very glad that you've joined us today, and I'm really excited to welcome our first guest, Jasmine Botter. Jasmine, welcome to the program. Jasmine, would you like to introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Thank you, Teresa. So my name's Jasmine. I would consider myself a local activist. I live close to downtown Barrie in a small, cozy apartment with my cat. And I just graduated Georgian College's program for office administration, and I look forward to helping nearby organizations achieve their biggest goals.
Thanks, Jasmine. So let's start off. Why, if you're feeling good, to share your recent experience that you had when you were accessing the downtown core. Let's start there, and then we'll unpack our conversation more.
Sure. So it was a Monday afternoon in September of 2020, and a friend and I had decided to go downtown and grab some lunch. And as soon as we turned onto Dunlop from Mulcaster, we were approached by a man who seemed friendly at first, but then he started asking to join us for lunch, which made us feel kind of weird. We didn't really know him, so we politely declined. But the situation escalated to a point where he had his phone in my face and he was asking for my number. And I looked around and I realized that we were all alone. And I was starting to feel a little threatened. So I just entered a fake number in hopes that it would all be over, which is when he grabbed me and he kissed me on the head, which is disturbing at any time, but especially during COVID. So he walked off, and my friend and I, we walked further down Dunlop, just trying to shake off the experience, still hoping to enjoy the beautiful day, which is when we heard a man yelling behind us. And after he yelled out a few more times, we realized he was yelling at us. And this frightened us, so we quickened our pace. And at the time, there was a bunch of construction going on in the 5 Points area we had reached. So we were unfortunately stuck between construction fencing and the buildings for a while until we reached a dead end. And the construction worker told us that we would have to turn back. We informed her of the situation and said we didn't want to turn back. We didn't feel safe. There was a man following us and yelling at us. So she took the situation into her own hands and escorted us back past this man and away from him, down the street a little bit, and basically told us to try to enjoy the rest of our day. And after that, we just felt very defeated because we knew the experiences we had just had in such a short amount of time were due to our gender, something we couldn't control. And we wondered what could be done to make these situations not happen so often.
So, Jasmine, I really appreciate you sharing that story, with all of us, because it is important for folks in our community to realize the experiences of women of sexual harassment and violence that happens every day. And certainly our shelter, we support women who've experienced violence, and not unlike, the situation that you experienced is a common thread that most of us have experienced throughout our life. In fact, almost 70% of the population knows and is aware of a woman who has experienced violence. And so your experience and what you've shared really highlights from a historical perspective, what women have experienced. And so taking that terrible experience that you had, a personal invasion of your privacy, your space, and your ability to access, an area of our city feeling safe. How did that motivate you? What did you do with the experience that you had?
Sure. So after I got through the emotion of it, which it affected me emotionally so much more than I thought it would. I really was affected by it for a week or two. But after the sadness and just the feelings of weakness and shame that usually follow those experiences past, I got angry. And this angry kind of directed me to diligently research all the ways which cities can become safer. And in the beginning, I was just copy and pasting things that I found interesting along with the sources where I found them into a Word document. And it was just this very rough Word document with a bunch of information. And eventually it got to the point where I was like, well, why can't these things be implemented within my city or any city? And I thought, maybe I'll make a petition to make these things happen.
And, we try to encourage women to use their voice to, be motivated to make change happen. And we are going to dive in, in just a little bit more in our conversation about what tangible initiatives have come from you using your voice. But can you tell us very quickly, where did your courage to share your story and to take action, where do you think that came?
I have a great support group around me. I'm very thankful for that. I have a great therapist who helped me go through the emotions of that situation. I have a very feminist dad and boyfriend and brother who all also helped me dissect it. So that was very helpful to me, just to realize this is a big deal and that was wrong and that shouldn't be happening. And they all told me, like, you feel emotional about that right now, and that's understandable, but knowing you are going to do something about it eventually. And I did. So yeah, I would really credit the support group I had around me, and also the anger that came with it. It definitely directed me. I kind of directed that anger into just creating this thing that might make these situations happen less often, and even worse situations related to the ones I have happen less often.
It is so vitally important for women to find their voice, to feel that they have the support around them to be able to speak up when these things happen. Because what we know is that there is a historical oppression and push down, let's say, of women's voices to tell their story for so many, many reasons. And the only way that we truly can make change happen is when we do speak up and we take that risk, we take that chance, but we do talk about our experiences much like we are today. So, we are going to dive in quite deep, in terms of the movement that has happened now because you have used your voice, right? When we really hope that if you are a woman who is listening today, that this will be an encouragement to you, that as Jasmine talks more to us about, how her voice really made change happen, that it could also be a motivator and a reassurance to any woman who's listening to us today, that if you want to report situation, that you have the freedom and the voice to do that. And Jasmine, I understand that the experience you had was something that you could have reported to police. Is that the case?
It is, yes. And it's something that I think is so normalized within our culture. I didn't even realize what had happened to me was a crime until my story thankfully was published in the paper along with my petition work. And a police officer reached out to make a report about those crimes. I had no idea. I just thought that these were annoying and awful things that women experience. But yeah, these are things which can be reported, and these perpetrators need to be held accountable for their actions. It's important to speak up about these situations.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Jasmine. And you know what? I think that your words will be encouraging to any woman who is listening today, because we know that as women, we access our beautiful city of Barrie, and there may be areas of our city or times of day throughout our city that we may not feel safe. And that is the reality of being a woman. as we, let's use the example that you had, as we access the downtown at night, we may need somebody to escort us to our car. We may never walk alone through the streets of downtown Barrie. And there's a reason behind that. That has been our experiences. Women have to create a different level of safety in their lives that are very different to men. So I think it is a great conversation we're having today. I know it will be an inspiration to someone else. And stay with us. And when we come back, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into the tangible initiatives that have come from Jasmine using her voice. Please stay with us. Welcome back to our wonderful community and viewers. Welcome back to our show, Educate, Inform, and Challenge. And we are joined today by Jasmine Botter, who is a young woman who had an experience of harassment and violence in the downtown area. And she is sharing her experience with us today. And she's also sharing the movement and initiative that she took to do something about it and use her voice. Welcome back, Jasmine, and really excited to carry on our conversation today. So you had this experience of, well, physically, a man who you didn't know touching you, kissing you on the head in the community, really feeling kind of backed into a corner in terms of where you were downtown, and feelings of fear, being unsafe, and it was quite an emotional, as you had explained, experience for you to have, which was not the first experience for you to have, which, of course, we reflect is the experience for so many women. Tell us how that experience motivated you and what you did about that.
Sure. So I was just so bothered that these men were still out there facing no consequences for their actions. So I created a Word document, that's where it all started, where I was just copy and pasting information from some awesome sources on the internet, and of course keeping the sources together so it was at least a little organized. And then I saw that, wow, it is kind of simple to raise awareness for the violence which women experience on an everyday basis. And it is really simple to implement some safety changes. So I thought, maybe I'll just create a petition about this. So then I just Googled how to create an effective petition, and I found some great resources, again, which helped me organize my information into a piece I thought would speak to the community and really make sense. I also created an online survey, and I was just advertising it on Facebook and on my personal Instagram. I advertised it in the buy and sell groups on Facebook, all the local Barrie ones, and people just took the survey and shared their thoughts and their experiences within the downtown area. I just wanted to make sure that there was a need for the changes I wanted to implement, and I wasn't personally blowing things out of proportion. And it also helped me fine-tune my research and attack the places that really needed the most help downtown.
So what kind of comments did you get from the survey? Like, what did you hear from that survey?
I heard that women were much more likely to experience harassment and assault within the downtown area. Many men had answered that they never experienced harassment or assault in the downtown area. And they were even commenting on my posts on Facebook that they were confused, like, what? This isn't an issue. Why are you making such a big deal of this? But I think it was around 75% of women said that they were sometimes, usually, or always harassed when downtown. So that really spoke to me and that really bothered me. And I also had open-ended questions, just asking where this harassment and assault was taking place, just to know which areas downtown were the worst specifically. So I got some answers and some good insight from that. And some women were even just commenting on my posts and openly sharing their experiences. And I was very inspired, but it was also very unfortunate to read this was happening to so many other women. But it just showed me that, yes, there is definitely a need for this in our area.
And, you know, it was such a great tool to reach out to the community. And I know our shelter, we were very happy to support your survey and you know, this, to get that information, right? Because, of course, our experience is in working and supporting women who've had that experience of violence. So, and we support and encourage women to use their voice. And sometimes a survey, an anonymous survey, is a great way and a great tool to do that. So when you had all that wonderful information that highlighted a significant problem, and of course we are talking about the downtown, but we could be talking about any area within our city, because it's reflective of course, women's experiences anywhere and any time. What happened once you had these results? What did you do with them, and what progress has happened since then?
Once I had the results, I took them to the rough draft of my petition and kind of fine-tuned some points in my petition with that information. And from there, I hit publish on the petition, and then I advertised it in all the same places, which I advertised the survey, and it was very mixed reviews. Some people were very much against the idea of the petition at all and attacking me personally. And I had a lot of doubt back then that anything would happen, but I also had a lot of people who were like, finally, and they were so supportive of the petition. So I remember I had listened to a podcast recently, and the host was talking about how she had put her name in for an award, like the Best Journalist Award for her area. And she was like, maybe no one is going to nominate me, but I can nominate me. I can advocate for myself. So I remembered hearing that, and that kind of stuck with me. So I went to simcoe.com and I just emailed them and said, hey, I started this petition and this is what it's about. And within 12 hours, I was reached out to by a journalist, Rick Vanderland, and he said, I would love to do a story about this. And I was over the moon. I was like, oh my gosh, maybe something really will happen.
And so fast forwarding a little bit, what has happened in response to your survey and the work that you did on that? What has happened now?
So after the first story was published in simcoe.com, I was being reached out to by local politicians. Keenan Aylwin, I believe, was the first one, which was fitting because he is councillor of Ward 2, which is the downtown area. And I also had police officers reaching out to me, just curious about how they could help and what they could do. I really think Keenan, however, was instrumental in getting this petition some progress and putting some fire behind it, because he organized what we now refer to as our downtown safety group. And it's this wonderful group of other local politicians, local police officers, and directors like you are, Teresa, of the Women and Children's Shelter. And we just work together on creating some change and picking away at the points of my petition one by one and getting things done.
So let's talk a little bit more about even that initiative. So I think, yes, the Downtown BIA group, yourself, Shaq's World, the Women and Children's Shelter of Barrie, and Salvation Army, and Barrie Police Services. So you and I are together as part of that group. So what have we been doing? Educate our viewers about what, at the grassroots, what it is that we've been doing.
Sure. So one of the first steps we took was doing a women's safety audit, which was a point in my petition. And what a women's safety audit is just a group of women and maybe a leader of the group. For instance, for us, it was Kira Brooks, a police officer who's often in the downtown area. And this group of women just walk downtown and they comment on things which might be dangerous or things that could be made safer. So from that initial safety audit we did, Kira put together a wonderful report that went over the most dangerous areas and how to make them safer. So from there, we have installed more cameras, we are installing more lighting in the places which need it, and we're also working towards perhaps installing some convex mirrors in areas where you'd want to know if you are being followed, or perhaps if someone is waiting around a blind corner, which you cannot see around. I am also working with the Barrie Public Art Committee to create a anti-harassment awareness campaign. So that's something that's in the works right now. Other points of my petition have more to do with creating a more populated downtown, because the eyes of bystanders, hold men accountable, or anyone who wants to take part in harassment and assault accountable. But because of COVID, I think those points will be put on hold because we don't exactly want a super populated downtown just yet. So yeah, that's where we're at.
I mean, you've done an incredible amount of things in a very short amount of time, really, when you think about that, right? So can you talk to our viewers about what is the bright spot? What does that mean?
So the bright spot is something that wasn't even in my petition. It came up as a side project as a result of the women's safety audit that we did. So the bright spot is businesses downtown. They volunteer to become a bright spot. They take part in a training, which we do, that informs them how to care for vulnerable populations downtown. And their role is basically to invite anyone into their establishment who might be feeling vulnerable or threatened or is just in a less than favorable state of mind. Maybe they even just need some basic necessities. The sign that they get to put up on their store just says, "Come inside if you need help." So once these people come in, they also have a list of resources which we provide that they can help these people out with. And it can also just be a safe place for these people to stay if they are feeling vulnerable or threatened while on the street.
And I think we've had a really great response from the downtown businesses who want to be involved and be one of those bright spots. And I think that we're all hoping that that movement is going to continue even outside of the downtown area, so that all businesses can be a bright spot. So anyone who needs assistance can reach out to them. And so we think it's a wonderful initiative, and you've done incredible work using your voice to make that happen. And so we've only got, maybe about 1 minute left, Jasmine. And so I have a really big question that I'd like to ask you, though. But if you could offer young girls advice on using their voice and being advocates for change, what motivating words would you say to any of those young girls and women?
I would tell them that if something doesn't feel right or if something feels unfair, that they should trust their gut, because there are so many things which have been normalized within our society that put women at a disadvantage. And many people don't even notice these things are still in place within our social structure. So I think it really all starts with simply bringing attention to it and using your voice to say, this isn't right and something needs to change here.
Yeah. And you know what? Thank you for that, because, we will have viewers, young girls and women who will be watching today, and they will be seeing you, and they will be hoping to see themselves, in what you've done, and think to themselves, I can make a difference. I can create a safer community for myself, but also for everyone. And certainly we're highlighting and talking about women's experiences. The Bright Spot program and the initiatives that you've started, rolling, that ball rolling, create safe communities for everyone, not just for women, but for everyone. And so, Jasmine, on behalf of our community, on behalf of women, we want to thank you for the work that you have done, for using your voice. And you are a wonderful inspiration for myself, for other young girls and women. And we just thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you for having me here. I, again, am really honored to be able to share my story on this platform.
And so we thank our viewers for being with us here today. And, we hope that this has been a time to educate, inform, and challenge our thinking and what we believe to be true. And we really do hope that you'll take what you've learned here today and spread that message. And we can create safety for everyone in our community. And let's have open and transparent dialogue about these issues. So thank you, and join us again next time. Bye-bye.